These transitions may look innocent, but they will not hesitate to lower your SAT score. So in this video, I'm going to give you a 4-step process to help you slap those transition questions right out of your way.
Round 1.
Let's demonstrate the SLAP method using an easy question. So the S is scan. And what we're going to scan are 2 sentences, the sentence before the blank space and the sentence containing the blank space. So let's take a look. We've got, it has long been thought that humans crossed a land bridge into the Americas 13,000 years ago. Already I'm seeing long been thought, which makes me think that is going to change. Like we're not going to think that anymore. But then if I look at the second one, based on some radiocarbon dating, a research team recently suggested, so this is likely going to be the new thing that's being suggested, that humans may have arrived more than 3,000 years ago, much earlier than previously thought. Cool. Okay. So after you scan, you are going to link the relationship between the 2 sentences. And as you do this, you might need to get more context from the rest of the passage. In this case, there's literally only 2 sentences, so I already read the whole passage basically. When we link the 2 sentences, we're thinking about what sort of relationship they have. And when I'm talking about types of relationship, I'm talking about things like, additions or continuations, comparisons, examples. There's a lot of them, and I've got all of them here on this cheat sheet, which you can actually download for free in the description. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I say link the relationship, this cheat sheet is going to give you all of those different types of relationships, along with all the words that show up on the SAT that fit into those categories and some examples. Anyway, so what I'm noticing is they first thought this one thing, now they think this other thing. So we have a contrasting relationship. And if we go back to the cheat sheet for a second, basically we're looking at this contrast or concessions. So I'm looking for words like however, nonetheless, still, etc. So I'm going to come up with an anticipation, which is my next step. And as long as I come up with a word, I should be able to relate that word to other words in the same category. So my go-to for any sort of contrast is just going to be however. So however would be my anticipation. And then the last step is to purge answers that do not match your anticipation. So as a result is not going to be in the same category as however. Similarly is not going to be in the same result as however. However is however, and that's definitely my answer. In conclusion, not the same category. So that is the SLAP method. Now I want you to try the SLAP method on a medium question.
Round 2.
All right, so pause the video, try this one on your own first, but here we go. Step 1, I'm going to look at my 2 sentences. In this case, the sentence starts from in this blessed house, newlyweds argue over whether to replace items left by previous owners of their new home. In a temporary matter, a husband and wife attempt to rekindle their relationship during a 4-night blackout. So I am seeing sort of a similarity because it seems like we have 2, like short stories or something. They're in quotes. I don't know exactly what they are, which means in order to link them, I'm going to need to read the first sentence as well. And indeed, it says this person's story collection features multiple stories about romantic relationships. So that gives me the context I need to link them. Both of these are about romantic relationships. They're 2 examples of romantic relationships. So I would say this is what I would categorize as a comparison of similar or parallel ideas. So for my anticipation, I'm going to say likewise, or I'm going to say similarly. So I'm looking for likewise or similarly. Go to purge my answers. Granted, no. For example, no. Likewise. Beautiful. All right. So you can see if you have a strong anticipation, a lot of the time you can just circle the answer because you'll get a 1-for-1 match.
Round 3.
All right, with this hard one, same thing. I want you to try it on your own first. So pause the video, give it a go. But here we go. So looking at these 2 sentences, the study found that the greater the iconicity of a sign, the more likely it was to have been learned. The correlation between acquisition and iconicity was lower than between acquisition and another factor studied, sign frequency. Okay, let's say for the sake of argument, I don't know what iconicity means. Like maybe I can infer that it has something to do with it being iconic, but we don't care, right? Because we could still see that it's saying there's a study showing that this factor iconicity helps with learning something. But then in the next sentence, it says that the correlation between acquisition, now I would have to know that acquisition is synonymous with learning. When you acquire something, you learn it. In particular, talking about like language acquisition. If we look at the first sentence, it does indeed say sign language, right? So in the next sentence, it's saying that basically learning is not as linked to iconicity as it is to sign frequency. So I do have contrasting ideas here. So like I said, my go-to for contrasting is going to be however. So however will be my anticipation. However. However. Okay, so then let's go through. In fact. In fact is not going to be in the same category as however. So that one's out. In other words is interesting because it seems like it's also negative, right? Because of other words. But actually, in other words is a way of explaining something in more detail, or at least in a different way to help somebody understand. Like if I said something like, Melinda said she had other plans. In other words, she didn't want to come to the party. So I'm sort of implying that when she says she has other plans, she doesn't necessarily actually have other plans. That's just what she tends to say when she doesn't want to attend something, right? So that would be, in other words, so that's not going to work. Granted. Let's say I don't know what granted means. We could go ahead and look at our list and we could try to find granted. And if we get down to here, we see that, it actually is in the same category as however. Now, if you are using this list, which again, you could download for free in the description, you do want to check this. You do want to check this column to see if they're interchangeable. If it says interchangeable in many cases or most cases, you're pretty good to go ahead and switch those out for each other. Basically, it's saying we could actually use the word granted in the same place that we could use the word however. So I'm going to go ahead and circle it. If you were not feeling as confident, you could definitely get rid of as a result as well. But with transitions, your anticipation, because there's only so many of them that you can choose from, your anticipation is usually just going to lead you to the right answer, and you won't end up having to eliminate 3 other answers. Now, obviously, if you don't know what the transition words mean, you're not going to be able to slap them out of the way. So I created a free downloadable for you in the description. Just click that link and you're going to get a list of all the transition words and phrases that show up in the College Board question bank categorized by usage. Just use the link in the description.